What if the person you trusted most became the one to break you? After 15 years of marriage, I thought my life was secure until betrayal tore it apart. It wasn't just about the lies or the loss of love. It was about losing everything I thought I knew about myself. But here's the truth. Hitting rock bottom can be the start of something incredible. In this story, I'll share how I turned heartbreak into hope, overcame the manipulation and pain, and built a life filled with love, purpose, and peace. A life she can now only dream of. If you've ever felt like there's no way out, stay with me. This story might be the spark you need to find your own new beginning. "15 years. That's how long we were married, and for the most part, it felt solid, at least to me. We were the couple everyone envied, or so I thought. Sure, there were cracks in the foundation, but isn't that normal after so much time? We had built a life together, or at least I believed we had. I can't pinpoint when it started to shift, but looking back now, the signs were there. She always insisted on loyalty, emphasizing how much she despised betrayal. Her words were convincing. How could I ever doubt her? But then her actions started to feel off. She'd glance at her phone more often, leaving the room for private conversations. A lingering unease settled over me, but I shook it off. It was easier to trust her than confront the growing doubt gnawing at me. I told myself it was all in my head. After all, 15 years is a long time to trust someone. You don't throw that away on suspicion. But those late nights and her sudden secretiveness told a different story. I wish I'd pressed harder back then, but instead I let it slide. Looking back, it feels like the beginning of a chapter one never wanted to read. Looking back, I see it so clearly. The warning signs I brushed off, the little things I refused to question. She started spending more time out of the house, always with some vague excuse, work errands, a friend in need. And then there were the new people in her life, faces I didn't know, names that meant nothing to me. But I trusted her. How could I not? I thought our history was enough to silence my doubts. When I stumbled across the first questionable text, I froze. It wasn't damning, not yet, but it felt off. Too familiar, too casual, from someone I didn't recognize. Still, I convinced myself it was nothing. After all, she'd always been my rock, my partner in everything. Questioning her felt like questioning the life we'd built together. So, I ignored it and moved on. But the signs didn't stop. The secrecy, the little lies disguised as casual remarks, the way she'd snap when I asked too many questions. I wanted to believe she was just stressed, that the woman I married would never betray me. Denial was easier than facing the truth. Deep down, though, I think I already knew. Something was unraveling, and I was too scared to see where it would lead. The day I found the evidence, everything changed. I wasn't looking for it, at least not consciously. Her phone was left on the kitchen counter, screen lit up with a notification. Curiosity got the better of me, and what I found shattered the last threads of my denial. Messages, pictures, even videos. Clear proof that I wasn't the only one she had been devoted to. My hands trembled as I scrolled, each image a dagger. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. Instead, she turned the blame on me, cold, detached, and unapologetic. It was as if I didn't even know the person standing in front of me. She twisted the truth, painting herself as the victim, as if her betrayal was somehow my fault. The gaslighting was relentless, making me question my own reality. I wanted to scream, to break something, to make her understand the pain she'd caused. But she didn't care. Her lies had been carefully constructed, her manipulation masterful. It wasn't just the infidelity that broke me. It was the way she discarded our life together so easily. I felt like I was sinking, unsure if I'd ever resurface. And yet, part of me knew this was only the beginning of the fallout. The separation wasn't just the end of our marriage. It was the dismantling of my entire world. She got the house, the place we once called our home. I left with just a few boxes and a heart weighed down by grief. Losing our dog was the final blow. He wasn't just a pet, he was family. But of course she claimed him too. It felt like she had stripped away everything that mattered, piece by piece. The emotional toll hit me harder than I ever expected. Nights became endless, filled with questions that had no answers. Sleep was rare, and when it came, it brought nightmares. My health began to falter, stress eating away at me, both mentally and physically. It was as if the betrayal had taken root inside me, and I couldn't escape it. Still, I wasn't completely alone. My friends and family rallied around me, their unwavering support pulling me back from the brink. They reminded me that I wasn't broken, even when I felt like I was. It wasn't easy to believe them at first, but their presence gave me strength. Slowly, I started to see a faint glimmer of hope. The road ahead seemed impossible, but I knew I had to take the first step. Even after the separation, she found ways to linger in my life like a shadow I couldn't shake. The demands came first, random, unreasonable, and always wrapped in a thin layer of manipulation. One day, I received a letter from a lawyer she claimed to have hired. But it didn't take long for me to discover it was fake, just another tactic to rattle me and keep control. Her games felt endless. She didn't stop at me. She targeted those around me too. Friends told me about strange messages and surprise visits from her, all under the guise of concern. It was like she couldn't stand the idea of me moving on or being at peace. It wasn't about love, it was about control, and I'd finally started to see it for what it was. Blocking her should have felt like freedom, but even then, I'd hear whispers of her attempts to meddle. For a while, I wondered if I'd ever truly escape her grasp. Yet with every boundary I set, I felt a little stronger. It wasn't just about keeping her out, it was about taking back my life, piece by piece. That I realized would be my real revenge. Rebuilding my life felt impossible at first, like standing in the rubble of something that once seemed unshakable. But one day, I woke up and decided I couldn't let her betrayal define me. I started small, morning walks, healthier meals, and eventually joining a gym. It wasn't just about looking better, it was about feeling like myself again. Every step forward was a quiet victory, a reminder that I was still standing. Emotionally, though, the scars ran deep. The anger would bubble up at the strangest times, catching me off guard. Memories of her lies, her coldness, her calculated moves would replay in my mind like an unwelcome guest. But instead of sinking into it, I began journaling, pouring every raw emotion onto the page. Slowly, the weight of it all started to lift. Blocking her number, her social media, everything, it was liberating and terrifying all at once. The silence she left behind felt like peace, though it also forced me to face my grief head-on. But with each day, I grew stronger. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was starting to live. It wasn't easy, but the first glimmers of hope had returned, hinting that maybe, just maybe, better days lay ahead. Meeting her wasn't something I planned. It wasn't even something I thought I was ready for. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. She was different, patient, kind, and steady in ways I didn't realize I needed. From the very first conversation, it felt like I could finally breathe again. For the first time in years, I started to believe that not all relationships end in betrayal. Being with her made me see my past through a new lens. She showed me what respect, honesty, and partnership actually look like. With her, there were no games, no second-guessing. Every day, I felt myself healing, realizing how toxic and one-sided my marriage had been. It wasn't just love. It was a partnership built on trust and shared values. I didn't think I deserved this kind of happiness, not after everything I'd been through. But she reminded me that it wasn't about what I lost. It was about what I could build moving forward. With her, I started imagining a future again, one filled with laughter and possibilities. For the first time in years, I felt hope, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. I'd be lying if I said she doesn't cross my mind from time to time. Not in the way she used to, though. Now, I see her for who she truly was: manipulative, selfish, and broken in ways I could never fix. There were moments I felt sorry for her, knowing she carried her own pain. But sympathy isn't a reason to stay chained to someone who only knows how to destroy. Looking back, it's hard to believe how blind I was to her patterns. She had a way of twisting reality, making me feel like the problem when it was always her. Even her rare moments of vulnerability now feel calculated, designed to keep me tethered. I used to think she needed saving, but I've learned that some people thrive on chaos, and I refuse to live in hers anymore. Now, I see her choices for what they were: deliberate and harmful. Maybe she's still out there, spinning her web, but it's no longer my concern. My life has moved forward, and hers, well, that's her story to write. Letting go wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Without her, I've found clarity, peace, and the strength to keep building something better. The day my son was born, everything else faded into the background. Holding him in my arms, I felt a joy I hadn't thought possible. It was like all the pain, betrayal, and anger from my past dissolved in that moment. He was perfect, fragile, but full of life, and suddenly, the world seemed brighter. For the first time, I felt like I had a purpose that no one could take from me. My partner was there every step of the way, steady, calm, and supportive. She gave me the family I didn't think I'd ever have again. Watching her with our son reminded me of why I fell in love with her. This wasn't just a second chance. It was a completely new beginning. Together, we were building something real, something worth fighting for. It's funny how life can turn around. The man I was a few years ago wouldn't recognize the man I am now. The fear and bitterness that once consumed me have been replaced with gratitude. My son's laughter fills our home, and every day feels like a gift. I'm finally living a life that isn't overshadowed by the past. It's focused on the future. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that even the darkest moments can lead to something brighter. Back then, I thought my world was ending. The betrayal, the loss, the heartbreak, it felt like too much to bear. But now, I see it for what it was: a painful chapter that forced me to grow. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone, but I'm grateful for the strength it uncovered in me. Life didn't just happen to me. I fought for this happiness. Rebuilding wasn't easy. There were moments I wanted to give up, times when the weight of it all seemed too heavy. But every step forward, no matter how small, brought me closer to where I am today. And where I am now, it's a place I never dreamed I could reach. To anyone going through something similar, it gets better. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to let go of the past. But there is life after loss, love after betrayal, and hope after heartbreak. My story didn't end when she betrayed me. It began. And yours? Yours is waiting to be written, one step at a time.
Keep watching our stories by clicking on one of the videos that appear on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be alerted about new videos. See you next time.